Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Nurul Septiani from Class D. On this occasion, I would like to present about my research. The research title is The Student Perception of Critical Thinking in Student Writing Experience. Okay, let's be started.
Chapter 1 Introduction. Writing has an important role in shaping the individual because writing skill can develop an individual's mindset to be logical and systematic. Writing activities are not just writing, but an activity that links intellectual knowledge and logical thinking, which is then combined with the selection of effective and communicative language to be put into writing the form. Writing requires someone to have good reasoning by first thinking about what he will write, so that it will produce good writing. Thus, it is very clear that in writing, critical thinking skills are needed to provide an explanation in identifying a problem, analyzing the problem, providing an explanation of the object described, and describing a thought in detail in organizing the content of writing. However, in reality, the ability of students to write is still low. This can happen because writing has been going on without being based on learning that can develop critical thinking skill. Based on this problem, researchers conducted research to get student perception about critical thinking in writing. Based on this explanation, the researcher intends to conduct research on student perception of critical thinking in student writing experience. Next is the formulation of the problem. Based on the background of the problem stated above, the formulation of the problem's purpose is as follows. How do student perception of critical thinking in writing? And the research question is, what are student perception of critical thinking in student writing experience? And next is the purpose of the research. The aim of this study was to determine student perception of critical thinking in writing. And next is the significance of the research. The result of this research hopefully can be used as the solution of the writing problem. And next is the definition of key term. First is critical thinking. Critical thinking is the intellectually disciplined process of actively and skillfully conceptualizing, applying, analyzing, synthesizing, and/or evaluation information gathering from or generated by observation, reflection, reasoning, or communication as a guide to belief and action. Second is writing. Writing is the process of using symbols to communicate thoughts and ideas in a readable form. And the last is perception. Perception is the organizing, identification, and interpretation of sensory information in order to represent and understand the presented information or environment.
Chapter 2 Review of Related Literature. The first is writing. Definition of writing. According to Hayati 2018, writing is a language skill that is used to express ideas or ideas that are in the mind through written language so that they can be read and understood by others. Therefore, writing skill really need to be trained so that students can convey their ideas or ideas through written language properly and correctly. Writing is one of the most difficult language skill compared to other language skill. Writing requires someone to have good reasoning by thinking in advance what they will write, so that it will produce good writing. And next is component of writing. According to Hayden, 1990, in writing a person must pay attention to 5 components. That is the use of language use, mechanical skill, content skills, and skill in language style and considered to the ability to select and organize their information. Next is critical thinking. The definition of critical thinking. Critical thinking is the intellectually disciplined process of actively and skillfully conceptualizing, applying, analyzing, synthesizing, and or evaluating information gathered from or gathered by observation, experience, reflection, reasoning, or communication as a guide to belief and action. According to Ingriani and Fazaria 2017, critical thinking ability is the ability to filter intelligently, meticulously, and in charge of all kinds of information which is not necessarily good and taste. Critical thinking is the use of cognitive skill to increase the likelihood and of a person's desired outcome. And next is the type of skill in critical thinking. Critical thinking has 5 types of skill according to Faiz. As follows, that is analytical skills, namely a skill to describe the structure into components. This is done for organizing the structure. Second is synthesizing skill. That is the skill to combine parts into a new form or arrangement. And then the skill to understand and solve a problem. That is the ability to understand something critically and apply it to the problem. And then skill to conclude, namely the skills to describe and understand various aspects gradually to arrive at a conclusion. And last is evaluating and judging skill. That is skills in determining the value of something by using certain criteria. And next is perception, the notion of perception. Perception refers to an idea, a belief or an image you have as a result of how you understand and notice things by using your sense. Sperling 1982 also affirmed that perception understanding of a present situation in terms of their past experience. Perception is one form of symptoms of the human soul fundamental issues that arise in the field of education. Apart from memory, thinking, intelligence, emotion, and motivation. We come to review of related findings. Previous study is aimed to be scientific need that is useful to give the cleaners and the limitation of the information understanding that is used and searched through reference to get the relevant data for research. The researchers refers to researcher before by searching in some reference, and the research used previous studies as the follow. The first is Islamia and Al-Fajri 2020, and the title is Investigating Indonesia Master Student Perception of Critical Thinking in Academic Writing in a British University. They say the study has examined how Master Indonesia students perceive critical thinking in academic writing, the challenges they face in expressing critical purpose, and how they perceive their critical thinking development in form of academic writing, particularly essay. Notwithstanding the complexities of adaptation into a new academic requirement, the finding indicated the participants appear to have sufficiently adapted to the new academic system and Britain. Convention by means of synchronization, acculturation, and transformation with the new academic written convention. And next is Ingriani and Fazaria 2017. The research title is The Influence of Critical Thinking on the Ability of Writing Narrative 5th class student in elementary school. They say that critical thinking has an influence on the ability to write narrative for 5th grade student at SD Negeri Lengkong District, Bandung City. Based on the findings that have been done by previous researchers, it can be concluded that there are some students who have difficulty implementing critical thinking in writing, and shows some students respond positively in implementing critical thinking in their writing experience.
That's all of my presentation. Thank you for watching. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.